Good day and welcome to another episode of TankeKrim. Today all Scandinavia is gathered in TankeKrim. With us today are two strong women from Sweden and Denmark. From Sweden comes Ingrid Carlqvist, who has been outspoken about what we in Norway call svenske tilstander, or in English, the Swedish situation. From Denmark comes Tania Groth, who have been an outspoken leader for Frihed, in English, for freedom, formerly Pegida, Denmark. Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Hello.
And also Inge and Unar.
Yes, hello.
Yes. Okay, Ingrid, perhaps you could start by introducing yourself.
Sure. I have been a journalist all my life, so to speak, since I was 20 years old. I worked in the mainstream media in big newspapers in Sweden for 30 years until I finally had it with all the lies, all the propaganda, all the misrepresentation of news and so on. So in 2011, I started the newspaper Dispatch International together with the Danish Lars Hedegaard. And of course, we imagined that it would be an uphill fight, but we could never have foreseen how absolutely hateful and furious the mainstream media journalists were. They fought us with everything, not only smearing us in their newspapers and so on, but they actually participated in hacker campaigns against our newspaper. Wow. And we did that for 4 or 5 years, and then we didn't have any more economy to do it. We were a bit too early, I would say. If we had started that newspaper today, maybe we would have had a better chance. But 2011, it was too early. People were too scared in Sweden. And now I work with a podcast, a daily podcast with my partner Conrad, whose actual name is Daniel Frendelöv. And I write on a book called From Sweden to Absurdistan, which I hope will come out in Swedish in March, and then English as soon as we have translated it.
Excellent. How about you, Tania?
Yes, well, unlike Ingrid, I'm not a journalist. I'm just a concerned citizen. I'm Danish-Canadian. Been living in Denmark now, this time, 20 years now. And about 3 years ago, we started for Frihed. Actually, it started as Pegida, Denmark, but we decided that for Frihed just suited the Danish mind better. And we've been doing demonstrations. We started demonstrations every Monday, and we were there was a lot of resistance from Antifa.
Okay. Så er vi her alligevel. Der sker utrolig meget rundt om i verden disse dage. Men nok noget af det, vi mest lægger mærke til, er venstrefløjens voksende og rapide aggression imod anderledes politisk tænkende, som I kan se her. Meget. Ja, det er demonstreret meget tydeligt. Og jeg plejer ikke at sige så meget om disse venstrefløjs aktivister, fascister, som Antifa, Pegida og lignende. Det jeg ikke har ville spille min energi på, hvad jeg opfattede som tosser, som blot skulle ignoreres.
Of course, and lots of police present always at our demonstrations. So we've been going strong for 3 years now, but we don't do it every Monday. It was every month, and now it's every second month, and we're just reorganizing a little bit. But we're still doing demonstrations. We're not so many. We're about 50, 60, 70 people, maybe if we're lucky up towards 100, and always protected by about 200 police officers. And then we have, of course, Antifa that are shouting Nazi pig and all kinds of terrible things at us. And they try to follow us, follow people home and attack them and stuff like that. But anyhow, that's me, just a concerned citizen deciding to speak up and do something.
Okay, every year in Norway we have something called like the term of the year. We have like this governmental branch that is concerned with the Norwegian language, and they elect the term of the year. And last year it didn't win, but it was on the list. Was a term that we Norwegians call Swedish situation, in Norway, svenske tilstander. So is it as bad as we think it is, Ingrid, in Sweden?
I think a better English translation is Swedish conditions.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the international audience.
Okay, I'll try again. Swedish conditions. Is it as bad as we in Norway sometimes think it is?
Actually, it's worse, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, because you only know what your newspapers report, or maybe you follow the Swedish alternative media, then you know quite a lot about how horrible it is. But I guess in the Norwegian discussion, not everybody, when they say Swedish conditions, they don't know half of it. I mean, since 2015, before 2015, we have had a lot of immigration to Sweden for many years, but before 2015, it was mostly in the big cities, and they were living, those immigrants, mostly from third world countries nowadays, they live in ghettos, so to speak. We don't call them ghettos in Sweden, of course. That's part of the Swedish conditions that we never talk about. We never say things as they are. We give them sort of a more glorious word. So they are especially vulnerable areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, because I remember like there was this Swedish reporter who went to one of those so-called no-go zones to prove that there were no such things as no-go zones in Sweden. And if I remember correctly, the outcome of that was that she was stoned.
Reportern Valentina Saferi och en kameraman åkte till Tensta för att filma bilder till ett inslag om stenkastning och attacker mot polisen i förorten.
Okej, lägg av, vi flyttar på. Gör det fort då, gör det fort innan vi bär med oss. Där, bra, flyt. Där är det. Ey mannen! Vad är problemet? Jag är ledsen. Var ledsen Östermalm där. Jag bor inte på Östermalm. Var ledsen där. Vad i helvete?
Wasn't that correct?
Yeah, people were throwing, I don't remember if it was stones, but they were throwing things at her and really, intimidating her. But what I was going to say, what happened in 2015 when we had 163,000 asylum seekers in that year, mostly coming in the autumn that year, not one little village in Sweden was spared. Now they are everywhere. Even if you come to a small little village in Sweden with 500 inhabitants, you have foreign people there. So what has happened now is that it's all over the place, and the situation is really, really bad. And we start seeing it now in the economy. For example, they told us for many years that we need immigration because we are an aging people, that we need them to work and to make sure that we get pensions, money when we retire. And now they've found out, as we have been saying for many years, that they don't work, so they don't pay any money into the system. So now Swedes have to work 3 years more before we can retire because of the immigration that was supposed to help us.
Can I interject something here? I have referred to it as the Swedish suicide, And I hear this term quite a lot also. And when I write internationally, I consistently talk about the Swedish suicide, because that's what it looks like from the outside. It looks like Sweden is or rather more, a certain elite is committing suicide on behalf of the rest of Sweden. And so it's sort of like the elite murdering Sweden, but it's a form of cultural suicide. But on the other hand, the fact that things have gotten worse now and that everyone is affected might be a good thing, because when before the small villages were spared, they didn't really know how bad it was, but now everyone is affected and everyone knows how awful it is.
You are right. Yes, you are right. That's what I'm saying too. Even though it was a disaster that we had all these people, it's also a blessing in disguise, because now you cannot, as a Swede, you cannot walk around just saying everything is hunky-dory, because it's not, because they all see. I mean, almost every Swede now knows someone who has been raped, gang raped, robbed, beaten up, and so on. So, I mean, you can't hide it anymore.
The last incident I heard of that really seemed to affect me on an emotional level was the Fitja sak. Do you know what I'm talking about that?
Yeah.
And I actually had a debate online with Norwegian people, and there's, first off, it's not been talked about in Norwegian media a lot.
Can you tell us what it is for the audience?
Okay. The details are uncertain, but it seems to be that a drug addict woman was. I really feel it disturbing just talking about it. But okay, she was gang raped by at least 5 people, if I understood correctly, and had an audience of up to 15 people watching. And when she asked for help afterwards, she did not get any from the place she was, which was a high immigrant area, and she had to go to get help on her own afterwards. And that when I read about that, it disturbed me a lot. And then a woman in Norway called Hege Storhaug wrote about it, and she said 20 people were a part of that gang rape. And then Norwegian fact checkers said, no, that is not correct. And then the debate suddenly became, it seemed to be worse to do factual errors in her reporting than the actual gang rape incident. And that really, really provoked me. I mean, on an emotional level, I got angry that some people were more concerned with that she wrote 20 people took part. And I would like to add, if you are watching a gang rape, you are morally involved in some way. I don't know if you agree with me on that, but if I just stay in a room where something awful is going on and allow it to happen, I am morally tied to the incident. I may not be the rapist, but I
definitely agree.
Thank you. And then that was my main argument, that okay, fine, only 5 people were actively taking part in this gang rape, but there were an audience of up to 15 people. She was not wrong in saying 20 people then. But the point was that the left-wingers in Norway wanted to constantly drag it back to Hege Storhaug factual errors, and I downright asked them directly, do you think it's just as bad to do a factual error than gang rape? And they refused to answer it. I asked them over and over again, are you saying that Hege Storhaug is just as bad as those people who did the gang rape? And they refused to say anything. And I was so emotionally disturbed by that morally relativistic attitude towards this horrible incident in Fitja.
Can I just give you a quick update on that?
Okay, please do.
I mean, the reason that only 5 people were prosecuted was mainly because the police did such a bad job. I mean, because she was a drug addict. Maybe they didn't take it as seriously as if she had been, you know, any woman. So it took them a whole year before they started to actually look into the the case. And then they went to the wrong. She was raped in a, what's it called, trapphus.
Stairways.
Yeah, the stairways into this, this building with apartments, and they went to the wrong stairway, and so they had. I mean, it was horrible. The police have had so much criticism, so that maybe if they had taken it seriously from the beginning, there would have been more than 5 people prosecuted. Okay, then it went to the court, and the court said, well, the police have done such a bad job, so we cannot know for sure who has been doing what, so they all got acquitted. I think that is terrible, even though I don't think that you should, put people to prison if you are not 100% sure that they did it. But the problem is that the police did such a bad job, and now they have sent 2 of the perpetrators' mobile phones to Germany to see if they can lock them up and see if there are films, because it is said that someone was filming the act. And so I don't know why we don't have these possibilities in Sweden, but now they've sent them to Germany to see if they can. So we have not seen the end of this, but the problem is the signal that they are sending to all these mainly Muslim men is that it's okay to rape Swedish women because we won't put you to prison. That's the signal they are sending.
Yes.
And part of the problems for the police, I guess, is the enormous weight of the numbers. Last time I read, it was 13 rape cases dismissed every day because of lack of resources. Is that?
Well, it seems to me that they are spending more time hunting down hate speech than investigating actual rape.
Oh, yeah.
I remember the case on Gotland. I remember reading that kind of the big problem for the media, or at least the left-wing activists, was the rage or the demonstration afterwards. That was kind of the big problem.
Well, of course, and I mean those asylum seekers who raped that woman who was in a wheelchair. They had met her in a restaurant, and they took her to their house because she needed to go to the bathroom, and then she was raped. But they were not even brought to trial because they said that they couldn't prove that she didn't want to be part of this sexual.
Well, wasn't there something about her not fighting back sufficiently? You're sitting in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean that is something that was. We haven't had that in the judicial system for 20 or 30 years, that you have to fight back. You could be raped even though you are not doing anything because you're scared. So, it was horrible. But then there was this, because Gotland is an island, and they have, islanders, they are always a bit special. So they don't like people coming to their island doing bad things. They don't care if they're from Stockholm or from Iran or Syria or Afghanistan. They don't care about that. If you're not from Gotland and you come there and you do bad things, they will try to kick you out. So there was this big demonstrations with a lot of people, but the mainstream media said they were all Nazis demonstrating against poor asylum seekers.
Wait a minute, wasn't there also another counter demonstration, like feminists defending the men?
Yeah.
I thought
yeah, we see that.
I thought I recall something like that. I thought, what is going on here?
I mean,
that's why we refer to it as the Swedish suicide. There's some mental disease going on there.
Yeah.
Well, some moral. There's something moral that slipped.
What's going on in practice is this is socialism applied to morality, where in socialism normally means economic redistribution from those who have much money to those who have less money. Moral redistribution means to take away from the good people and give to the bad people. And so you give moral credit to the bad people, and you harass the good people. So you blame the good for being good, and you cherish the bad for being bad. And in order so that you can redistributed so that you meet in the gray middle. So what we see in Sweden is really the people who know that these people are really bad, and we see it in Norway as well. And because they are bad, they defend them, and they attack the good people because they are good, because they don't want this inequality in the world. So the socialist explanation for that is that if you're bad, it's not because you are actually taking moral decisions as a moral individual agent, but because you're born poor and born into a poor neighborhood. So it's all about oppression.
Well, of course, and I mean that's where the Swedes have been. I wouldn't say that Swedes are committing suicide, because I would rather say it's a genocide committed by our politicians and the people behind them. Because I mean, most Swedes, they have not been aware of what has been going on. Swedes are docile. We trust authorities. We trust our government. And they told us for so many years, first of all, they told us, well, the immigration is so small, it will never change Sweden. It's just a tiny little piece of people. It will never change Sweden. If you think that, you are crazy. And then when it started to become more and more and more, they said, oh, we need these people because we are growing old. We are not having enough children. We need these people. If we don't take them in, you will not have any pension when you are old. And now when we see that that too is a lie, they say, so what?
I have to say,
well, no, it's too late
Yeah.
in some way. Yeah.
It's the same. I recognize the same modus operandi, sort of, also for Norway. I guess it's the same for Denmark as well.
Exactly the same in Denmark. But the thing that they're talking about people as if everybody is equal. I guess Sweden is more so than Denmark, that everybody is equal. Like a person is a person is a person. The fact is there are differences between people. You can have productive people coming in from a Western country. You can have an engineer from Australia, for example, coming in, emigrating to your country. And this person will do something positive for for your country. Will work and will pay taxes and so on. The people that are bringing in, they're not going to pay they're not going to work or pay taxes. We can see that clearly now in statistics. And no, they're not going to pay our pensions. Are you kidding? We're going to have no pensions because of them.
Yeah.
I think that of all the three countries we have represented here today, I think Denmark has the most healthy view on immigration. Am I right in thinking so?
I think so. Absolutely, I think so. We don't yet have the Swedish condition here, even though it is only a bridge away.
Yeah.
And it is. And we look at the Danes. I mean, we love Sweden. We love the Swedes. They're a sister country.
But can I ask here, what is the reason that Sweden is so sick while Denmark seems to be more healthy?
You go first, Tania.
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know that there's some difference in culture, character, but we are so close linked. I just don't know. I think Ingrid might have a better answer to that because I'm perplexed.
Yeah, but I would say that Sweden is a much bigger country. And as you know, we have, I mean, there are a lot of kilometers between Skåne, where I live, close to Denmark, and Norrland, way up north. And I think that we have always had a strong kind of system, a strong government to keep all these people in the same line, so to speak. And since the Social Democrats did it quite well in the beginning, people sort of, and you also must know Sweden hasn't been to war for 200 years. It's been bred out of our men, I think. And so we just trusted what they told us. And you have also to understand that Swedes are Danes and Norwegians, they think we are not nationalistic at all, not patriotic at all, because we don't celebrate our national day like you do. But, you know, Swedes are the most national people in the world. We have a sort of Titanic nationalism. We are absolutely sure that we are the best country in the world.
It's an arrogance.
And when you are the best, you're not supposed to brag about it. That's why we don't, you know, walk around waving our flag all the time. We know we're the best. We know we're bigger than you. We're better than you. So shut up. Yeah,
Okay.
and this is bad for us. I mean, I'm telling you this to show you that since we were so sure that nothing could ever change Sweden because we're the best country in the world, so we are sort of, you know, most Swedes are they are flabbergasted. They don't know what happened. How could this happen? We were the best country in the world. What happened? We were one of the most homogenous countries in the world. When this started, this mass immigration, when they actually took a decision in parliament in 1975, Sweden was one of the most homogenous countries in the world. Now, almost 30% of the population have some kind of foreign background. And it happened like this. And most people had no idea. They were just living in these Swedish villages, small towns, and they thought, oh, it's a problem in the big cities. But, you know, because the journalists, they never told us anything. So people are now in shock. And that's what I'm most worried about, that when Swedes now, they wake up in a very, you know, like this. They are really waking up. But what I'm mostly afraid of is that when they wake up, they will look around and say, it's over. Sweden is over. There is nothing. Yeah, there is nothing left to fight for. And that's what I am really scared of, because I'm saying this in my daily podcast every day. You are wrong. It is not over. We are still the majority. And even if we do become a minority, we will be the biggest minority. And this is our country. We are righteous. This is our country and we have the right. So never stop fighting. And we will take Sweden back. Don't you worry. We will. It might take a few decades, but we will become Swedish again.
Yes, well said, Ingrid.
Yeah.
I noticed maybe the last initiative, the Free Sweden.
Yeah.
Can you tell a bit about that, perhaps?
Yeah, Free Sweden is a cooperation between my podcast and Motgift, Antidote, the podcast with the two Swedes, Dan Eriksson and Magnus Söderman, being sent right now from Berlin. And they too, just like us, have been, you know, thinking about it. We got to do something. We cannot just write articles, you know, send podcasts, do TV shows. We have to do something, really do something. So they called us last summer and they said, we have this idea. What do you think about it? We want to buy a house, the House of the Swedes. And we do this organization that are supposed to speak for the Swedes. You know, in Sweden, we have organizations for every kind of, you know, people and ethnicity and everything. Somali organizations, African organizations, Arab, Syrian, Irani, Iraqi, you name it. There is not one organization speaking for the Swedes. So we did this organization. Our goal is to, you know, always speak for the Swedes. I'm not holding my breath that any journalist will call us. Not this year, not next year, but in some years' time, they will actually come to us and say, what do you think about this? And then the next thing is to start buying or building House of the Swedes. And then we will show our children and grandchildren what it was like to live in the Swedish Sweden, because most of the young generation now, they don't know anything that. They don't know any other thing than multicultural society. They are used to being scared. They have no idea. When I talk about my childhood, for example, it's like I was talking about another country, some other part of the world. Tale. Yeah, a fairy tale. So that's what we want to show, to help Swedes to feel safe again and to give their children and grandchildren a chance of really experiencing what it's like to be in a Swedish Sweden. So you could say we are planning to buy back Sweden piece by piece.
Yeah, I like the idea. Do you think the government will use legislation against that idea in terms of call it discrimination, etc.?
they will do everything they can to stop us. So that's why we have to be very careful. We will not tell anybody where we are planning to buy or build a house before it's all there and we have all the security, because the same day as we launched this Expo, you know, the sort of Swedish Stasi-like organization that they hunt down Nazis and racists and whatever. They wrote about it, and in their comment, when people commented, it didn't take more than half an hour before people said, "Let's burn that bloody house down." So I mean, that is what they will try to do, and I'm sure we will not get any help from the society.
Police.
No, from police or.
You're gonna have to focus on security.
Yeah, of course.
I'm often talking about the definition and the power of definition. So I guess the definition of racist and etc. It's kind of everyone who disagrees.
I think that it's important to focus on that, because what I used to say now is that everyone who disagrees with Mao, Stalin, and Pol Pot are labeled racist. And I think we should focus more on that. The fact that these people are saying exactly the same thing as some of the worst mass genocidal murders in history.
Yes.
And why is that okay? If they were spouting Charles Manson's ideas, everyone would say that what kind of a crazy person are you spouting like the ideas of a mass murderer? But they are literally spouting political correctness, which is the invention of Mao, and they're touting anti-racism, which was pushed by Trotsky and Stalin. So why are if we focus more on the origins of these Marxist terms, I think that's a better way of achieving something, because at the moment we're only defending ourselves against the Marxists instead of focusing on them. The fact that they are the viciously evil people, and they've done this before. They've done genocide multiple times. So allowing them to have any form of moral high ground is to let them have a victory that they don't deserve. So the first point they should be answered to is, why do you support genocidal maniacs? Why do you agree with Stalin, Pol Pot? And why is it considered a crime to disagree with them?
I agree, but I have come further, I would say, when, you know, they have been winning the discussion for so many years by calling us racists. And we have spent 99% of our time defending ourselves. No, we're not racist because this and that. Nowadays, I just say, okay, you want to call me a racist? Go on. Call me a racist, a fascist, a Nazi, a xenophobe. I don't care. I have important things to discuss. I am discussing how we can keep Sweden a Swedish country. And I am an ethno-nationalist. Yes, I do think that nation states are the best if a big majority, I'm not saying 100%, but if a big majority is from the same ethnicity. So that's what Sweden was made for, Swedes. That's why we have the kind of police system we have, the judicial system we have. When you are a homogeneous people, you don't need so many police officers. You don't need so many laws, because people have sort of the same idea about what is allowed and what is not allowed. And now when you bring in people with totally different ethnicities, cultures, morals, and everything, you get all these problems. So yes, I do think if that makes me a racist in your eyes, go on, call me a racist. I don't care. I have so much more important things to do.
I can interject there that what previously was called the ethno-national state is what we just called the nation state before. Because in the 19th century, there was a movement away from empires. Empires are by definition multicultural. Because the emperor invaded and took over other people's land. And then there was this great movement. No, we want to have nations, not empires. So they founded lots of countries in Europe based on common cultures, common ethnicities, common language, and common history. So you got the German nation state, you got the Italian nation state, you got the Swedish nation state, and so forth. And in Norway, we celebrate this that we were liberated, so to speak, from Denmark and became our own nation state. And now, and there's no antagonism behind that, because today Norway and Denmark are the best of friends, and also Sweden. So there doesn't have to be any antagonism just because you are basing yourself on a nation of people with a unique language, and we respect our uniquenesses, and we can even celebrate the other nations' uniquenesses and specialties as something that's worthy of applaud, but we want that to be in their states and not in...
Yeah, and you know, that is the problem, because the whole EU and people after World War II, everybody got the idea that a nation state means war, that because you love your own people, you hate others and you have to invade them, and that is totally wrong. That is not at all how it is. I mean, when you love your own people, your own nation, then you love other nations and other people, and you want them to have the same kind of homogeneous society that you have. You don't want to invade them because you don't want an empire, just as you said, Ona. You don't want an empire. You just want your own country with your own people.
I think of the nation as a little bit similar to like a super family. And just because you have your own family that you care more about doesn't mean that you hate other families.
No. Yeah.
In fact, it's a very sick and perverted idea that just because you are close to your own family members, that somehow means that you're hateful or that you want to destroy other families. It's an insane thought, and it sort of reveals something psychologically deficient in the minds of the Marxists, who believe that unless we're all a part of the same family, it's somehow conflict is the only alternative to that.
They think we're all interchangeable. We're just interchangeable parts in the world. Anybody can be placed anywhere, and there's no problem.
Notice how that this also applies to the family. They think that the mother and the father is interchangeable with the government. It's the same idea on all levels, not just on immigration, but on every level. Women are interchangeable with men. Mothers and fathers are interchangeable with nannies and the government assistants and teachers. And communities are replaceable by welfare, and a nation is replaceable by the EU.
Regarding how to battle this situation, I noticed the point you made earlier, Ingrid, about the importance of appealing to emotions.
Yeah.
And because the politically correct side, to simplify, they seem to be very eager to work on the emotional arguments and platitudes and that area.
Yeah.
And whereas our side seem to not be good at that.
Yeah, and I think you could say, if to be a little bit not so scientific, you could say that the left side is a more feminine side, and the right side, if you want to call us the right side, the right as in opposition to wrong, we are more the male side. We work with the brain, not the heart and the stomach. We work with
reasoning.
Yeah, reasoning. We look at science. We look at the studies, and then we thought that if we just tell this to the people, they will understand that we are right and they are wrong. But that's not how most people work. Most people actually are more prone to feelings. And when they say, look at these Afghani boys, they're only boys, they will die if they go back to Afghanistan. And you see all these middle-aged women in Sweden that we call tie-dye witches.
takes off.
Yeah, and they've actually, you know, they're having sex with these Afghani young men. They're not boys; they're young men. And even though we know from studies that private persons in Sweden have done that the Afghanis, they are the most raping kind of people that we have ever had in Sweden. It's like 85% of all the gang rapes are committed by Afghanis. So you know, it's absolutely crazy. They look at these guys and they say, oh, let them stay so they can rape some more Swedish girls. No, they're not. They're just seeing, oh, he's a nice little young man and I like him, and maybe he will die if he go to Afghanistan.
Yeah, I've seen some instances of that. But okay, so if you can just sum up this segment then. Do you guys agree with me when I say that Denmark has the most healthy immigration standards and Sweden has the most unhealthy, and Norway is somewhere in between you two?
In between, yeah. I would say, well, you mentioned earlier, Ingrid, what is that? Did you say 30%?
Yeah.
Of Sweden is immigrants?
Not immigrants, but they have some kind of foreign background.
Yeah,
it depends on how you count. But if you say that they have, for example, a Swedish mother and a foreign father, normally you put them in the Swedish section. But when you put them half, when you put half of them in the Swedish section, half of them in the foreign section, you get actually up against 30% with some kind of foreign background.
Good Lord. I'm looking at the numbers from Denmark.
Yeah.
Look at the numbers from Denmark where migrants, there in 2016 was about, it's probably more now, but about 9-10%.
Yeah, and the official figures in Sweden are like 16 or 17% in Sweden.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's still vastly, vastly different.
It is. But
numbers.
But let me to sum it up, let me just say, you're absolutely right. Sweden is in the absolute worst condition of all. But you have to understand one thing. Sweden is a consensus country. So for many years now, the consensus has been that immigration is good for the country. And if you don't agree with that, you're a horrible person. You're a racist and you're not a Swede. You understand? You're morally not a Swede. The good thing is that it could turn very quickly. And when it turns, the consensus will be that Sweden is the country of the Swedes. And everybody who says something else is a bad person. So that's what I am.
What would it take?
Well, I think it will happen pretty soon. Maybe we will see something in the election that we will have in September. But I mean, it will take, I don't know, more gang rapes, more horrible things. And it's impossible to say what will it take, but one day it will happen. And then it will go very quickly. You will not even have time to hold your breath. And then Sweden is totally changed.
Well, I hope you, for the Swedish sake, I hope you're right.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I count on it. I'm thinking the same. I can't imagine it going much further before Sweden, the Swedes actually realize that they are losing their country. They're losing their future, and I can't imagine them sitting on their asses and doing nothing. I just can't.
No.
That's not my impression of Swedes.
No.
They're very tolerant up until a certain point, and I think that actually goes for all Western countries. Okay. You know what? We've shown you goodwill, and we've done this and we've done that. And you know what? We've given you everything, and you are just shitting on us.
Yeah.
And you know what? We're not going to take it anymore. Out of our house.
Yeah.
Leave the party.
I have to say,
get off my lawn.
I have to say I'm reluctant to use the term good or best for any of our countries. I'm leaning more to the least bad situation for Denmark and Norway. In my opinion, both Norway and Sweden are just some years behind Sweden. It's just a question of how many.
Question of time. Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of agree with you, Inge. I don't know everything about Danish culture, but the way I see it from afar, at least, it seems that they have a more healthy everything. They are liberal, but they are healthy liberals. They are allowed. For instance, I do think they respect freedom of expression a lot more than Norway and Sweden does. We are more concerned about concepts of hate speech and bigotry and wrong think.
I'm not really sure about that. Is that true, Tania? You had some pretty court cases.
Denmark is the only Scandinavian country where Pegida type have been able to continue over time, I guess.
I'm not in prison and I haven't been charged.
No, so you do agree with me to a certain extent that freedom of expression is important for the Danish people, and so people are allowed to think and say and voice their opinions more loudly and proudly than, for instance, Sweden and Norway.
I would say yes, definitely. But again, it's slowly changing. It's like the salami method, you know. It's just little bit by little bit, and then somebody's said something, and then something blasphemic. Yes, of course, we changed the law there, but it's also happening here, but maybe at a slower pace.
Right, I think that's...
But yes, for now we were better off, but it's happening everywhere. Yes.
Yes,
and we're surrounded. You have to remember, we're sandwiched. We're sandwiched in between Sweden, where it's not going so well, and Germany and England. We're really sandwiched in, and we're a very small country, so it can't but affect us in some way. But it's a fight. It's a battle.
I think that the only thing that the Danish government needs to do is understand the power of the word hate, and then they can subjugate, I think that's the right English word, their people instantly. In Norway, we have had like freedom of expression has been important. It's a part of the constitution. And then suddenly we start to talk about hate and bigotry and bullying and all of those things. And they constantly talk about it, and then every time they use that term, we slowly lose a little bit more of freedom of expression because we have to take care of the victims. We can't bully the Muslims, we can't bully the immigrants, we can't bully women, we can't bully gays, we can't bully anyone. Hate speech is wrong. And then in 1st of January, I don't know if you've heard of this, but 1st of January got a new law that specifically wanted to save people from discrimination. A discrimination law that specifically wanted to save migrants, minorities, and women. So ipso facto, it is a discrimination law, a law that discriminates. That's my point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but that's how it's been working in Sweden for many years. We have this law called hets mot folkgrupp. It's sort of a law against hate speech, and that's only for minorities. I mean, there was one court case a few years ago where a person in Sweden of some kind of, I don't know if he had any foreign background, but he was Jewish, and he was actually writing this on his blog that he was Jewish, and he hated Swedes, and he called Swedes vermin. You know, the most horrible vermin on earth. And he actually dared someone to report him to the police. And if they did, and if they won, he would give them like 50,000 kroner. And someone did. Someone reported it to the police, and it was a court case. And the court said, no, that's not discrimination. You can call Swedes vermin. No problem. No problem really? At all. But if a Swede, I mean, that was actually, you know, trying to stir up something against Swedes. But if a Swede only say, for example, we have a minority called Samer. Samis, is that the English word?
Sami people.
Yeah. The Sami people. And we used to call them Lapp in Swedish. Lapp. That's why we have one region called Lappland. Yeah. And someone wrote Lapp instead of Sami people, a Sami person. And he wasn't being hateful at all. He was just using the wrong word. he was sentenced in a court for hate speech.
Oh,
You see how this is all, and when the Swedes don't know about this. I know about it because I'm a journalist and I read everything about this, and it's my job to know about it. But most ordinary Swedes, they have no idea. They think that the law is good because someone shouldn't go out saying, let's kill all the Muslims. They think that's what it's about. It's not. And you can say anything about Swedes. And I think it's like our politicians, they treat the majority people as the oldest sibling. You know, I was a big sister, and I always heard you are so much bigger, you are so much older than your brother, your little brother. You have to be the bigger person. That's what you always experience as a big sibling, as the older sibling. And that's how they treat the majorities. You are better. Of course, everybody knows you're better. That's why we need a better standard from you.
There has been some controversy, to my understanding, about some things you've said about the Jewish people. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, sort of. It all started when... in a podcast like 1.5 years ago or something like that, I got the question because I talked about how we, on the nationalistic side, we need to stop fighting each other because we have a country to save. Well, we have a lot of countries to save, all Europe, to be frank. And I said that I do think that we should join efforts because we do have some things in common, even if we don't have everything in common. The most important thing is that we want to save our countries. And we do agree that the nation state is the thing that we want, and that the family is the most important thing in the nation state. And then someone put me the question, does that mean that you could also work together with the Nordic resistance movement, who are openly calling themselves National Socialists? And I said, yeah, at a certain point, I would do that. Of course, if we are in a situation where we have, for example, a civil war, I would fight side by side with them, even though I don't like the society that they want to create. But they do want to keep Sweden a Swedish country. They want to save Sweden. So I could do just like the Danish resistance movement did during World War II. They decided to work with the communists, even though they hated communism as much as they hated National Socialism. And then all hell broke loose. I was called a National Socialist. I'm not. I don't agree with any totalitarian ideology. I just said that in a special situation, in a serious situation, such as a civil war, of course, I would work side by side. And then when we have saved Sweden, I would say, bye-bye. You go your way, I go my way.
The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So sometimes you just have to lay in bed with the devil to get what you want.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it.
Some cooperation with communists also happened in Norway, by the way.
Yes.
We know
my grandfather was a communist and he fought against the Nazis. I am not a communist. I'm just saying that I have some in my family.
Yeah.
The problem is that people have a tendency to make things very black and white, and like, oh, you said something that is slightly sympathetic to something, that means you're totally something. Dichotomy. It's so black and white. Either you're completely agree or you're a Nazi. It's the same thing that goes over and over again with people. It's like you can't just try to understand the other person. You have to automatically interpret it in the most horrible way possible.
Yeah, and there is one thing that I think is crucial to all of us, but especially for me as a journalist. I criticize everyone who tries to destroy my country. I don't care if they are Muslim groups, Swedish politicians, the Church of Sweden, or Jewish groups. I criticize everyone whom I think have some responsibility and are doing some bad things for Sweden. I don't care. There are no groups, in my mind, there are no groups that can be free of criticism. I just
totally
refuse
agree.
that. Yeah.
I totally agree.
I noticed that given all of your cooperation, Ingrid, with Gadzad, Esther Levant, Jamie Glasser, Dana Pipes, Gatestone, and so on, for all your cooperation with Jewish people, you seem like a strange anti-Semite. Have anyone made that point or seen that contradiction?
No, I think that if you ask them, they would say, well, she's a snake. She takes their money, but she's just, waiting to do some horrible stuff. I don't know. You have to ask them, because I actually don't care what you are. If you are black or white or Jewish or Muslim, I care about what kind of person you are. And I do have some, I don't want too many Muslims in my country because Islam is a totalitarian ideology. And I think that we shouldn't have it in our countries because it's dangerous. But if you're a secular Muslim and you don't, or you are an ex-Muslim, I have no problem standing by your side and fight for you. And that goes for blacks, for Jews, for everybody. I just don't say that, okay, this group, I will never criticize them because everything they do is part of God's plan or whatever someone is telling you. I don't buy that. I criticize those who need to be criticized.
Okay, thank you all for listening to this podcast. In part 2, we will talk about political views and how they differ from men and women. See you later. Bye-bye.
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 Bye.
Okay, I'll have a cigarette then.
I just quit.